All right. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Gord Tanner. I work at Research in Motion, or BlackBerry. I'm a code poet there. I got to make my own title, so I liked that one. You can follow me at Gord Tanner on Twitter. So first things first, the theme for my talk is My Little Pony. If you don't like My Little Pony, suck it, I have the mic. So first off, just a little warning, I trolled the internet for a long time collecting images of ponies. I like 4chan all over. There are things I can't unsee, so just, if you want pony images, I'm sharing my slides, you can go there. Just a public service announcement. I thought to talk about Cordova.js, I'd give a little backstory of how I got involved with the project and how we got to where we are today. So I was part of a company called Tiny Hippos, and we are the typical mobile development shop. And we kind of got involved as web developers by hearing something called Jill. And Jill was basically one of those early platforms that allowed you to do HTML5 apps. And we were web developers. I didn't even own a cell phone. And we were pretty psyched that we could take what we knew as web devs and like really just bring it into the mobile world without really knowing anything about it. So this really got us overjoyed because we were used to how we would edit, how we'd work code. We were used to like the OSs, the editors, the tools we liked as developers. We had a certain way of working. So we were used to edit, refresh, look at our results. We'd have our editor in one monitor, our browser in the other, and that's how we work. So that quick way, we all kind of fell in love with the web, of just from coding something to the result in half a second. It was that fluid way of coding that we really enjoyed. So we came in expecting that. And the first thing we noticed was we had to download SDKs, and they all kind of had like browser plugins to your IDEs. And this seemed really odd to us, that we'd be forced down this path, but we're like, you know what, we can live with that. But with that comes the idea that you edit your code, you compile it, which sometimes have to sign it when the signing servers are down, all that other crazy stuff. You load it on a simulator, and then you run your code. So with all that being said, that was a long time. There was an early time when we couldn't even figure out how to get the emulators working. And so we were just testing on a browser. It was kind of silly. And we went out to have like a coffee, and all of a sudden we heard like in the room like ba-ding. We're like, what the hell was that? And we walked in and we're like, oh my gosh, the simulator started. We weren't waiting the 15 minutes it took for the simulator to boot up. We were expecting it to, I don't know, start. So I did a lot of math. I like math. So just to get it down to the idea that 5 minutes is greater than half a second. Now, just so we know, we essentially were able to do web development, but 600 times more suck. Now, we're like, okay, we're new to this. We're just web guys coming into mobile. Who are we to judge? So, like, I'm new at this. I don't really get it. Let's just call it even. Like, as long as I can kind of use like similar tools. I'm used to Web Inspector. I'm used to like all these tools we've invented recently to like really help us as web developers work on our code. But back then, oh crap, we don't have that. We had at that point Alert. That's all we had. We had Alert and what the hell is this Netscape Navigator 3? So this was we processed thinking there has to be a better way to do this. And we just started writing our own bootstrapping scripts, our own kind of mock shim of the platform. And as we filled in functionality onto it, it came to be known as Ripple, and became our product. We became that type of startup that does consulting, but we also have a product. And it kind of took from there, and all Ripple is a Chrome plugin. So this is just running inside Chrome right now. it does basically what everyone else was doing with a little more shine to it, a little more polish. So that gives us the ability to emulate around your app to make your app think it's running on a device. So on any device you want, so I can pick like, we have skins for BlackBerry ones right now, but so we can pick like the new Dev Alpha, so BB10, so on and so forth. But it gives us things like the accelerometer, I can move it, I can do geolocation, I can throw in a GPX file, so record myself walking through the neighborhood, play that GPX file through so I can simulate at my desk walking through Central Park and getting bings every time I pass by something important. So that was kind of where we came. Now, as like developers of a mobile environment emulator, we kind of saw PhoneGap. I just realized it's kind of shifted up there, isn't it? Oh well. We kind of discovered PhoneGap. We kind of fell in love with the idea of using the W3C specs, of making the web today what it will be tomorrow. And we just really liked the syntactic feel of it, the idea. So we quickly added it to Ripple. And it was actually kind of fun. We spent some time on the weekend just kind of adding in base support. Started, in this case, we had about 123 failing tests. I spent the weekend just hacking away at it, and I got it down to about 15 tests. And I was like, oh, this is awesome. And we're thinking, how do we tell the PhoneGap guys this is kind of cool? And they kind of reached out to us. We're like, yeah, we use your mobile spec, which is really awesome tool for us. And we have it down to 15 tests failing. So, like, can you help us with those last 15? And they came back to us saying, we don't even pass that many tests. So at the time when we first started adding PhoneGap support, we were the most compliant platform out there. So long story short, Tiny Hippos was required by RIM. Awesome thing was that the product Ripple that we were working on was open sourced. It was given away for free. It's open source. It's out there for anyone to contribute, anyone to use. And this was awesome. And this kind of freed up a lot of our cycles, a lot of our like mind share to start thinking about what we can do, what I can do for the mobile web. And I knew the way we were emulating was good, but it could be better. So traditionally, when we would emulate something, we would just polyfill in the entire object. We got into the document much before your app would. And we just put window.navigator, we would throw in our window.navigator, and window.geolocation was our window.geolocation. So essentially the entire PhoneGap platform, we rewrote that in our own way of coding and just serve it up like that. So PhoneGap.js back then actually had a little shortcut that was put in the top where it's like, oh, if PhoneGap already exists, do nothing. That was basically added for Ripple so that, because we would throw everything in there and they wouldn't need to execute any of their JavaScript. But we knew PhoneGap was a little different. PhoneGap was the one platform that had a JavaScript layer, and every call would go through something called PhoneGap.exec. You saw it shown in the plugin example. So we knew that we could do this better. If we could emulate at the exec level, we could essentially become an actual environment emulator. So the problem was we got in really fast, so we could lay the world out before the document would happen, but PhoneGap.js was interpreted later. And we're like, how do we get in there fast, but not too fast? So we made something called the honeypot. So network security has this concept of putting a server on your network that's really attractive for hackers to come, and they kind of go in, you log all their actions. So we thought, you know what, that's kind of a good analogy. We kind of lay traps on the window object, lay kind of like little places that we know you're going to go, and just through the sheer disgusting awesomeness of JavaScript, we can make something lantern equals 12 actually equal anything we want. So this allowed us to basically monitor when you set PhoneGap, when you set exec, rather than being the native implementation exec, it's actually our exec module. And you know what? That was pretty awesome, and we were pretty psyched about it. We contacted, we're like, okay, I kind of get this exec thing, this is what we're doing, this is how we've done it. And the PhoneGap team was really excited about that. And they're like, blown away by how we structured our code, how we approached emulation, how we approached cross-platform development. And so where did that bring us now? So we were talking with the team, and there was a problem at the time. There was a duplicity problem. So if any of you have watched a lot of My Little Pony cartoons, you'll notice that anytime there's more than one pony on the screen, they just cut and paste the same pony, which what we were doing in PhoneGap. Anytime there's a new platform, we just cut and paste PhoneGap.js and hacked out a couple little differences. So there's this inherent problem of duplicating the exact same code for every platform, which we needed to solve. And the idea was, if we were to take Tiny Hippos and combine it with something that was already kind of awesome, what could happen? So we kind of approached it from that. Let's take how Tiny Hippos organize their code, how we took Ripple and bring it in with PhoneGap.js and try to make something really neat. So I was brought in as a contributor. I went to BlackBerry and said, hey guys, I have this awesome kind of idea of kind of melding these two projects together to make something neat. And they're like, yeah, sure, do it. So I was brought in. It was pretty cool. So the first thing that kind of struck us was we were Node guys. We love Node. We use Node for all our building, all our unit testing, like for back-end servers, everything about Node we loved. And we really loved CommonJS and the packaging from it. Now, anyone who really works in the web a lot knows about AMD modules. And that module framework works a lot better in the web. And we kind of looked at them and said, yeah, no, CommonJS feels better to us. I don't want to rewrite every module. But it's an open source project, and I realize compromises need to happen. I realize that you kind of have to listen to other people's ideas and really kind of find the balance at the end. So we spent some time just discussing. I talked with James Burke, the guy who wrote Require.js and Almond.js. And you know what? It was kind of cool. I really liked some of the loader plugin module. I liked the syntax. At the end of the day, it was very close to what we were doing. So we kind of joined forces at the end of it. We kind of spent some time, and we made yet another module loader in JavaScript for Cordova. Just really a streamlined kind of version of what AMD is, but just what we needed. We didn't have any of the async XHR stuff, or any of the other like relative module stuff, just what we needed in the least amount of code possible. So basically went over to Vancouver. So I had kind of prototyped up a little bit of what I would envision PhoneGap.js looking like. Went over to Vancouver, but over the course of the weekend with a bunch of people in a room and a bottle of whiskey, we managed to get PhoneGap.js booting. So this was taken just after we managed to get the accelerometer working as a plugin on BlackBerry 6. And this was kind of cool because shortly after that, we got working on Android. And it was just a really neat kind of validation that what we were doing is kind of leading the right way. So to kind of think about it this way, I'm just going to show you guys the code. So bear with me because I'm going to have to move this down a bit. Ooh, there we are. And I can go all the way down there, right? Okay, so one of the things we did at Tiny Hippos was we were console guys. We spent a lot of the time in the console. We used VI, we used like other tools, and we just wanted to be able to build quickly from our environment. So you can see I just did a build. This built every single platform version of Cordova.js, as well as ran all our unit tests and linted the code in about almost a second. This is just using a project called Jake, but our idea was we wanted to be able to do our testing, do our development quickly. But we also realized that we were actually in the browsers first, so we can do those exact same tests in the browser as well. So you can actually see all the same tests running in the browser, which was kind of cool. Now, the way we did the separation of things, because we did everything as a module, everything as a plugin in Ripple, we did that same concept in PhoneGap.js. So you can see that we have a lib folder, and basically anything common goes in common lib. So you have all your common plugins that are essentially cross-platform. Ideally, everything is going to go in this folder eventually, but the reality is it isn't. So you can see that each plugin basically just can require in Cordova, require in the exec module, and do anything that's they need. And they all, at the end of the day, call out to exec, and where it goes into the magic native land. So each platform that is implemented, essentially all they need to do is provide what we call platform.js, which is the definition of the platform. So just ID of the platform, an initialization, bootstrapping function, and these objects, which are these modules that you define that we throw onto window for you. So you can see, imagine objects being window. So window.device is equal to this module, and so on. There is a set of common ones that this is the guts of everything. So this is where Navigator gets built up. So anything that's kind of thrown on window kind of is thrown into these spec files. So once a platform does that, they also need to provide the exec module. So each platform has a different way of getting the native. So for example, I think Android still does a prompt. Bata, which was actually really interesting. Bata is a pure web platform, just using WAC under the hood. And it was really cool because this one came in after we had written Cordova.js. And I was looking at this code, and I'm like, wow, this is really cool. They basically have a list of plugins, call the service action, and if it didn't exist, they kind of log. And I was like, that code looks really awesome. I really like it. And I was like, oh yeah, because if I go to Ripple, whoops, lib, platform, Cordova, our bridge that I was talking about earlier, this is really hard on like zero, screw it. Oh, whatever. But this code exactly is the bridge in Ripple. This is the exact same thing we did in Ripple to bridge our code. It was just kind of neat starting to see the cross-pollination of the two projects, because in reality, what we were doing in Ripple bled so well into what was happening inside of Cordova.js. So basically, stepping back from what we have today, so 2.0 launched, we have full coverage of all the platforms. We're running Cordova.js. But where do we want to take it from here? There's a couple design decisions we took that is hopefully paving the way to that Cordova 3.0, to what Brian's going to talk about after me. The one thing is because everything's a plugin, we can start to, let's see, can I go like that? Spoiler alert, the idea is, great, we can just add plugins in. So rather than having Cordova.js ship with all these APIs in it, you can just kind of custom build Cordova.js. Say, I'm only ever going to use geolocation, accelerometer, and compass, so I can add those in. And then add in discoverability of, say, an NFC plugin or a micropayments plugin, some of those other APIs that we don't want to bundle into Cordova as a platform, but our community are going to contribute to it for us. So that kind of is how we architected Cordova.js, to really plug in the ability of each of the JavaScript layer of the code. Secondly, so Ripple, I mentioned it, kind of has a lot of ideas from Ripple have been brought into Cordova.js and vice versa. And the idea, we actually spent a weekend at a cottage coding up emulate.phonegap.com, which basically, it's nothing really crazy. It's just a simple proxy like build.phonegap.com that allows us to boot up Ripple on your site real quickly. So the idea is from build.phonegap.com, we can add a quick link that just pass in like a query string like earl.phonegap.com, go, and it'll boot up Ripple instantly for you. It'll prompt you if you need to install it. You can pick platforms and versions. It's really just a thin kind of glue between build and between Ripple as a plugin. And the idea is we want to bring Ripple a little bit more closer to the Cordova community, add it to the tool chain a little more intimately. So the idea, hopefully eventually, is do npm install Ripple, and that will be an emulation layer. So we can do the Hello World app. Brian's smiling because he's probably going to duplicate all of this. You can do the Hello World app without installing an SDK, which is ideally what we want Ripple to do, that first pass thing, because all of us know that like that initial like half or 60% of development, you don't need the phone next to you. You don't need to like load it through an emulator. You don't need all that. You have a browser already on your desktop that happens to run the same underlying engine that's on the phone. So why don't you just use that? So lastly, here are just some resources. So if you want to look at the Ripple code right now, it's on GitHub under BlackBerry Ripple UI. Cordova.js is Apache Incubator Cordova.js. If you want all the glorious images of ponies that I have or my slide deck, it's available on GitHub as well. And you can follow me at Gord Tanner. Thank you.